Hi there everyone, Lars here with another anime review for The Dangers in My Heart, brought to you by Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers, because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. This latest episode was just more of the good fluff that we've come to expect from this series. However, there are some things within it that I feel are actually very important for the overall story, and kind of hint as to why it's going to take so long for Ichikawa and Yamada to finally get together as a couple, despite the fact that Yamada is really cranking it up to 11, trying to get this kid to realize just how much she likes him. So let's quickly have a look at some of the big moments here within this episode, and then talk about what kind of really good writing is being done right here. So we pick up right where we left off in the last episode, where they are alone in a train station. They missed everyone else because Ichikawa is off sulking in the bathroom. Yamada didn't tell anyone, and boop, everyone left without them. Oh boy, what a scenario to be in. And what's really funny right here is just what kind of misunderstandings are going on between these two characters. With Yamada thinking, this is all my fault, Ichikawa being like, no, this is all my fault, and just how there's way more going on right here. Here, they're actually speaking at completely different levels, each carrying on their own conversation, and that is incredibly realistic right here. I mean, think about it. In a normal conversation that you might have with someone else, you might be talking about the exact same topic, yet you might be going in completely different directions about that topic, or about your feelings on that topic. Weirdly enough, that's very hard to recreate in fictional conversations right here, and I love the depth that is within the scene right here, and how it's just juxtaposed beautifully with the comedy, especially when we get to see Yamada's imagination of Ichikawa being like, I am going to the bathroom, everyone. That is my declaration. That was just funny. It made me laugh out loud. That was perfect. Once they reunite with the rest of the group, everyone makes up, apologizes, and we move on. However, we then dive right back into the middle school shenanigans of boys having boy talk. Ooh, so who do you like? Why do you like? Well, the body's really sexy. And Ichikawa being like, wait a second, am I just lusting after Yamada? What does that say about me? I've always looked down on people like that. I've wanted to destroy them, to murder them. And yet, I might be just like them. No! I love that realization for the angsty boy, where he's always looked down on other boys for being just regular boys, and then suddenly he's like, wait a second, what if I'm a regular boy too? No! It cannot be! And what does that say about my feelings for Yamada? Because I'm obviously different than them, my feelings should be more pure. What if they're not pure? I love that crisis of conscience right there. And that's honestly something that I think anyone who wants to get into a healthy relationship should ask themselves. Why do you like this person? And be honest with yourselves. And you know what? It's totally honest to say, hey, you know what, there's that physical aspect, because that is important in a good, healthy relationship. Just saying. What I really enjoy, though, is how this episode is able to draw out, to honestly hilarious and great emotional effect, the problem with being called out, at least Yamada getting called out, that she is eating in the library. The librarian doesn't know exactly who's done it, but the librarian's like, okay, we're slapping up a sign now. Do not eat in the library. And what I love about the scene, and I'm going to get to it in greater detail here in a little bit, is how Yamada's like, why does it have to be spelled out? I know I'm breaking the rules, but why is it being spelled out? And how she goes on this quest to figure out who snitched, what happened, why is there this sign that she's no longer allowed to eat in the library, and then Ichikawa trying to prevent her from getting caught eating in the library, and just how that plays out. In fact, it's really great. I love how we get the whole romantic moment of him snatching her hand, preventing the librarian from seeing the candy that is obviously in front of her, and then Yamada reacting very flustered. She's now got hands covered in chocolate. She wants to eat it. She's a hungry, growing girl, but she doesn't want to see Ichikawa. She doesn't want Ichikawa there to see her licking her hands like a savage, and so she tells him to go away. He leaves thinking that I've gone too far. are. I touched her hand without permission. There was that whole boob graze earlier on as well. And no. All of this has come to an end. Of course it would, because I'm the angsty boy. And then he comes back the next day, and there she is. And she's like, hey, I took your advice to heart. I am laying off the snacks. I am not eating a whole third of my snacks today. And he's like, that's not the problem. The problem is that you're breaking the rules, and that could get us both in trouble. What are you doing, girl? Once again, what we just have going on here with this story is just regular, everyday to-day stuff. Things that you would expect to see in a school. And I've brought before how we have this whole fantasy versus reality dynamic, and we get that right off the bat where Ichikawa's like, stop grinning like an idiot, you fool. This is a fantasy that's playing out, yes, but this is a bad reality. We are lost in the middle of the city without an adult. Ah! So I love that. And then also when Yamada is waiting for him to give him her copies of her favorite manga, she's waiting out in front of the school, which there's plenty of friends who do this. And again, the fantasy is, what if my date is waiting for me out in front of the school? Wouldn't that be great? We then get to have a talk, and that fantasy happens for Ichikawa. Except that, again, he is in this headspace where he's like, no, that can't happen. This would never happen to me. She's obviously waiting for someone else, even if she is giving me the copies of her favorite manga. It just plays out beautifully, this clash of fantasy and reality in everyday middle school and high school life. It works honestly well. Nothing is overdone. Everything feels like it could actually happen. And that's just, I think, one of the many aspects to this story's overall charm. Now, to dive into the meat of the matter, the real message that this episode gives is through the sign that the librarian posts up. That some people don't realize what is going on, they don't realize what the rules are, they don't realize what the expectations are, unless it is spelled out for them. For Yamada, it is, don't eat in the library. And the humor to the scene is not just that this has to be spelled out for her because she knows that she's already breaking the rules, but what's funny is that Ichikawa is here watching all this going down. He has his inner monologue commenting on the fact, and yet he himself does not realize just how hard Yamada is coming on, trying to impress her feelings upon him that, hey, I've got a crush on you. He needs it literally spelled out for him. And one of the moments that helps to impress that upon us is when she was waiting for him in front of the school. Because when he passes by, she grabs a hold of his bike, stops him, walks with him, hands on over her favorite manga, and she starts gushing like a geek. She is sharing something very personal that she obviously didn't share in front of the others, not even in front of one of her best friends. Why? Because this is something very special and personal to her, and she is sharing that now with someone that she wants to have a much closer relationship with, hoping to impress on him. This is why you should read it. And the poor girl's making all the kinds of mistakes that nerds often do when they get really excited to share something and they overshare. But the fact of the matter is that she's coming on very strong. She is trying to get Ichikawa to notice her feelings, but he doesn't. Why? Because just like Yamada, he needs to have it literally spelled out for him, or he will not recognize that. And because that is the case right here, this episode tells us, sorry y'all, if you were hoping that they would get together in episode 7, that's not going to happen. Because unless Yamada can figure out that she needs to literally spell it out for him, he will not pick up on it until much later on. And so this does set the stage for a much longer rom-com right here. Now again, I've brought before how I personally like it when characters get together sooner. It's going to be very hard to maintain this kind of energy and fun in the long run. So the best way that the show can manage to do this is, in order to manage for a long run, because there's going to be a long run before these two get together, this kind of misunderstanding, this fluffy romance and everything like that, is to continue exploring different middle school scenarios that can actually happen where these two can get together, we get that funny clash of reality meets fantasy, and then also within these moments, learning a little bit more about who Ichikawa is, learning a little bit more about who Yamada is. This first part of the season has ultimately been there to help establish these characters' personalities. However, there's a lot of history to these two characters, as you find out when you read the manga, and so that's going to get slowly teased out over time so we can better understand who these two are and why their relationship works so well together. We're also going to get to that point where, you know what, you just have friends, and how do you then get out of the friend zone? Especially when both of you want to get out of the friend zone, but you know what, you're completely miscommunicating with each other. So there's a lot of fun still yet to be had, but it will definitely come down to the proper timing, proper pacing, and using proper scenarios in order to stretch out this kind of a rom-com for a very long time. We're used to the joke and the meme by now that you have something like Rent a Girlfriend where there's just no progress whatsoever. Why have we spent so many chapters on this relationship when it's not progressing? How do you tease out a rom-com for so long? I think that if we keep watching, I think that The Dangers in My Heart will actually show us one of the formulas, one of the ways in which you can make that work without the story growing stale. We'll just have to continue to watch and see, now won't we? So, if you're looking for more analyses into other shows, please check out what we've got here on our channel. If you're looking for some solid writing advice, head on over to our podcast, Camille's Harem. And if you'd like to support us here, a comment, a like is always appreciated. Subscription is always appreciated. However, we would love it if you would check out some of the books that we've already published. Links for all of them and more are in the description below. Thank you for joining us on this incredible adventure that we call writing, and until the next video, y'all, tschüss.